Why am I getting troubleshoot? I just opened it and I've not allowed me to open it.
Thank you, Chair. If you'd like to begin the meeting.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Windsor and Ascot Development Management Committee on the 7th of May 2025. My name is Councillor Neil Knowles and I shall be chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held in person, via Zoom and streamed live to the public on YouTube. I remind all attendees that participation in the meeting indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed live and acknowledgement that after the meeting it will continue to be available in the public domain. There are no fire drills scheduled this evening, but if a fire alarm did sound, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make yourself to the assembly point at the front of the building, opposite the barracks. That is the nearest exit, just to my left over the shoulder. Firstly, it would be useful if all committee members and officers could introduce themselves so the public are aware who is in the meeting and the role they are undertaking. I've already introduced myself. I've asked Councillor Mark Wilson.
Councillor Mark Wilson, Vice Chair.
Councillor Julian Teasy, voting member of the panel.
Councillor David Buckley, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Devon Davis, voting member of the panel.
Councillor Gertz Singh, I'm substituting for Amy Teasy this evening.
I'm Councillor Karen Davis, I'm a voting member of the panel.
Councillor Sonora Luxton, voting member of the panel.
Mikey Lloyd, Democratic Services Officer.
Jo Richards, Development Management Team Leader.
And joining us via Zoom is Anthony Lennigan, who is the legal advisor to the panel. We're expecting a couple more people to arrive in the next few minutes, but we will push ahead with this and they'll probably take no part in the first agenda item, which is coming up in a moment. Firstly, I request that all meeting participants do not speak unless I've specifically invited you to do so. Once I've invited you to speak, before you do so, please state your name and the capacity in which you are speaking, if appropriate. I'll also ask officers to speak at appropriate times. If any individual attempts to disrupt the meeting, I'm able to use my powers in the Constitution to adjourn the meeting or have the individual removed. I'd also like to remind councillors that to improve our time and effectiveness as a committee, I'd ask you please to limit the repetition of points or questions which have already been raised by others. Where possible, please put forward all new points or questions during the questioning phase, which you would like raised during your request to speak. We will now move on to the agenda items. Agenda items 1, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have an apology from Councillor Amy Teasy, who is being substituted by Councillor Gertz Singh.
Yep. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Chair, yes, I have a declaration of interest on the second application, which is now the first, in that I knew the individual from applications in my ward, but I come to the meeting with an open mind.
Okay. And any other declarations of interest? No, thank you. Next point, agenda item 3 is approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of April 2025 as a true and accurate record. Are we all agreed? With those who were present, obviously. We're having people gradually arrive. We're now jumping to agenda item 5, which is application 25-00477, which is a full application land adjacent to 91 Meadow Way, Old Windsor in Windsor. And can I ask Joe to please describe the application?
Thank you, Chair. Just going to flick through to the second item. There we go. Okay, so this application is at land adjacent to 91 Meadow Way, Old Windsor, and the proposal is for change of use of the detached garage for the storage of private motor vehicles and domestic storage, and use of adjacent amenity land not associated with number 91, and it's a part retrospective application. And the recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions set out in section 14 of the main committee report. So firstly, just to state that we have had some updates to the application, which should have been circulated, but I'll just go through them now. So firstly, we received some amended plans, which was an updated and annotated site plan, clearly indicating what the garage is used for and the land surrounding would be or would not be used for in this case, and some accurate garage elevations. I will proceed to show the plan as we move through the presentation. Secondly, additional comments from Old Windsor Parish Council have been received, and I'll just read them out. So they state that unfortunately their annual meetings coincide with this meeting, so nobody from Old Windsor can attend. They would like to raise concerns regarding the amount of parking being available to the property, as it doesn't appear to comply with RBWM's own parking guidelines as regard to the amount of spaces available. We believe this needs to be considered and rectified in the event of non-compliance. And the issue of parking is covered in section 10 of the main report, and again will be discussed as we go through the presentation. So moving on to the proposed development and the plan submitted with the application. So this slide shows the application site outlined in red. Just going to get my laser so I can. Here we go. So the land in question formerly was part of a bigger plot of land, all associated with the dwelling house here, number 91 Meadow Way. So the plot has been subdivided, and the two parcels of land are now owned separately, and this application relates solely to the piece of land here outlined in red, and the building shown there is the existing detached garage. This road is Meadow Way up here, going up here, and this is Saxon Way. So here we have the site plan. So this was updated. We wanted it to be really clear as to what the garage was being used for, the precise nature of the storage, and also the precise nature of the use of the land surrounding the garage. So it shows the garage to be used solely as domestic storage and classic car storage for the applicant. Also, it shows the two sheds which exist on the site, again to be used for domestic storage only. And then the land, the external land outside the buildings, clearly annotated so that it's not to be used for any outside storage or business use. So we asked for this plan so the application can be conditioned. And as you can see, that's the remaining site plot for number 91. And then again, we asked for some accurate elevations of the existing double garage. So that's what it was, as it was before, that's how it is now. And again, that's being used for domestic storage by the applicant. So not in association with number 91 Meadow Way as it was used before. So moving on then to some photos. So this photo here on the left of the screen. So immediately in front of you, you can see the existing detached garages. So they are accessed from Saxon Way. This boundary wall is pre-existing. That was already there. So there is limited views into the site. On the right of the screen now, there where my cursor is, that's the site entrance, if you like, the entrance to where the garages are. And again, that's the existing or pre-existing brick boundary wall. So again, views into the site are reasonably limited. So the fact that the plot has been subdivided and a fence erected to split the plot and subdivide it is not discernible from outside the application site. So officers have said in the report that the subdivision of the land has minimal impact on the character of the street scene. Again, there's some on-street parking, but there's not much on-street parking in the vicinity of the application site. So moving on, again, this is another view of Saxon Way. So that's the boundary wall to the application site, the entrance just here. And then on the right-hand side there, that's the front elevation of number 91 Meadow Way. So they're on the corner there. As you can see, they've put a little area of hard surfacing in the front of their property now. But that, just to reiterate, that's outside the red line boundary. These are some photos taken from within the site. So on the left-hand side, that's the view of the fence and planting that subdivides the plot. And that's taken looking back at the rear elevation of number 91. So as you'll see, and you may have seen from representations, there are some concrete beams currently stored on the land, and they are to be removed, and that is conditioned in the event the planning permission is granted. And then again, another view of the site showing that's the existing garage. So that's the amenity land, proposed amenity land, and they're the concrete beam again to be removed through condition. And here we have a photo showing, just evidencing what the garage is being used for in terms of the domestic storage. And there's a photo of the two sheds that are at the back of the site behind the garage. I just put this slide in just to demonstrate the variety of plot sizes within the area. So this is number 91 as it was prior to the subdivision of the plot, and it does have probably one of the largest, more spacious plots within the vicinity of the application site. But this is really just to show that even with that subdivision, and it's set out in the report, that there are examples of other smaller plots within the vicinity. This plot here that has been subdivided. There's another corner plot here with quite a small amenity space to the rear. Again, and other plots over here have quite small garden areas, this one in particular. So it's really just to sort of demonstrate that there are quite a variety of plot sizes, plot shapes, such that officers didn't feel that subdivision of the land and the creation of two slightly smaller plots was inconsistent with the pattern of development in the area. So finally, just to go through the main conclusions and recommendations. So the application site is in separate ownership to number 91 Meadow Way and is now being used for the storage of private motor vehicles and domestic storage. The subdivision of the former plot for number 91 Meadow Way has resulted in two smaller plot sizes that are not dissimilar to other plot sizes within the immediate vicinity. No planning harm has been identified with regard to the impact on the character of the area through the subdivision of the plot. The resultant garden size for number 91 complies with the amenity space design guidance set out within the Barrow-wide Design Guide SPD. The roads surrounding the application site do not have parking restrictions and do not suffer from on-street parking pressures. So officers have identified that no planning harm has arisen through the change of use in relation to loss of parking. So the recommendation is to approve planning permission subject to the conditions controlling the use of the land and the garage and for the removal of the materials stored on the site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe. We have one speaker this evening, the applicant, Duncan Gibson. Duncan, if you could step forward to the microphone. I'll have 3 minutes to speak to the panel, and you'll get a 1 minute warning from Mikey that it's about to end. And if you press the button, the red light will come on, the microphone is live, and we'll start timing from when you begin.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. I'll be brief. I just wanted to offer a few words of, I hope, reassurance that there's nothing troubling here, nothing troubling being proposed here. My client is the applicant. He used to own and live in number 91, and when he sold that property on to move elsewhere in the village, he retained the ownership of the garage and the sheds, as you've seen at the end of his back garden. He keeps his classic vehicles in there. He uses it for domestic storage. So the use of the garage is no different to any other garage in the village. Parking vehicles, storing things. As stated in your officer's report, there's no outward manifestation of that use. You simply don't know that it no longer serves number 91. There's no shortage of car parking in the area, as you've heard. Cars being parked on the side of the road is perfectly acceptable, perfectly common feature in suburban England. It's not necessarily indicative of the severe impact on highway safety that would be necessary to sustain a reasonable objection. Confirm for the record that there's no intention whatsoever on the part of the applicant to use the site for any non-domestic purpose. Condition 1 recommended by your officers prevents any business use. My client's absolutely comfortable with that requirement. He will comply with it. And if he or anybody else shouldn't, it's a matter that's easily monitored and enforced against. And that's about the sum of it, Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. We now then come to the question phase with councillors able to ask Ms. Richards what other points they may have, if you'd like to indicate if you wish to ask. Councillor Devon Davis.
Yeah, maybe I'm being a bit foolish here, but most of the complaints seem to be about removing parking spaces, but I'm thinking residents of number 91 do not have access to the car park, to the carriage. This application doesn't change anything. That I don't understand how this application lowers the amount of parking spaces. Am I missing something? It's the question.
No, so that's right, and I think it's important to bear in mind that actually planning cannot control ownership of land. So I think the fact that the two parcels of land are separately owned means, and also actually that the existing garage is not conditioned to remain solely for the purposes of parking provision for number 91. Means, you know, we can't control that. What they need planning permission for is the creation of the planning unit and the use of the land for domestic storage. So for storage, it's a very similar nature of use, but it's not in connection with number 91. It's different ownership. So we're calling it domestic storage. So it is a material change of use, but yeah, it's, you know, the parking point has been considered in the report, both from a policy point of view, but also from a point of view of you know, the land is owned separately now in any event.
Any more? Councillor Julian Tizzy.
Hello, thank you. Just one more question on parking. 10.9, 10.10, you talk about, essentially this is about the adequacy of the parking, and as Councillor Devon Davis has said, most of the complaints do seem to be about the adequacy of the parking. I think it states that the proposal would not result in an unacceptable impact on parking and highway safety sufficient to refuse the application. Can you just expand on that in terms of why that is?
So I suppose starting from the policy point of view, the policy basis, and that's set out at 10.6. So we've got policy IF2, which refers to the 2004 parking standards to be used as a guide, and then we've got neighbourhood plan policy OW8, which and this is quite important, requires development proposals to provide appropriate parking and access, both for new development and existing properties where they would be affected. And that's, I think, has to have consideration not just for what's on site to serve the development, but whether there are any parking restrictions in the vicinity of the site, and whether there are high levels of on-street parking such that there are pressures, parking pressures on the surrounding roads. In this case, there isn't. So the site, the case officer went out, did a really thorough site assessment of the roads surrounding the application site, and picked up that it was actually quite common in the area for dwelling houses to have only one parking space off road. Some didn't have any. The fact that number 91 wouldn't have any, we're saying is not harmful enough, given that there is sufficient parking on the streets surrounding the application site. We can't demonstrate any significant harm to highway users as a result of the very low level of overspill onto the surrounding roads.
Is that okay? Councillor Luxton.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a bit confused at 2 points. One is it's flood zone 3. Secondly, also, I don't mean to be rude, but it looks like a builder's yard, the back. So is that going all to be clear? What entrance would they use to get into that shed? Thank you.
Yes, it's flood zone 3, but I think the important thing in this case is, whilst it is a material change of use, the building on site remains the same. There's no additional building. They're using the existing garage that was there before, so no additional built footprint in the floodplain. And whilst it is a material change of use in planning terms, that the use essentially is very similar in terms of any potential impact on flooding. It's a storage, going from storage of cars to serve number 91 Meadow Way to storage of cars and domestic storage for another owner. So in terms of flood risk, the vulnerability category is exactly the same. So, you know,
Okay.
yeah, do you want to say something? Yeah.
I was just, sorry, thank you, Chair. I was just going to add that because this wouldn't be attached to a residential property, it would not have PD rights.
Okay.
So I think if that provides any reassurance for you,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't have the normal PD rights that you get when the land is attached to a residential dwelling.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you. As the ward councillor for the area, I can tell you that it's a double-edged thing here. Meadow Way, where 91 fronts, not every house has off-street parking. So roadside parking is a thing along Meadow Way. In fact, the neighbouring properties use it as well. And there was a breakout area at the front. There was a lovely old couple who used to live there. Used to park out the front. So it's a thing. Saxon Way is different. Most of Saxon Way just has off-street parking. It's just around the corner. But it also has on-street parking as well. It's not, no parking restrictions. And I can't think of any time in my memory where there's been a massive jam of cars parking. And I was only round there the other day, and it was pretty much empty during the day, as normal. So they're the points there. I think the initial concerns residents raised with Councillor Jones were about what the yard was going to be used for. And this is why this has ended up coming to panel. And I think, really, to my mind, I think the applicants pretty much sorted that out, I think. Okay, any more questions? Councillor Beckley, anybody? But like I said, it's a fairly straightforward thing now. It's ended up a straightforward thing. Would anybody like, have we all finished with the questions, could I say? Has anybody anything more to talk about the debate or talk about maybe proposing motions? Councillor Luxton.
Happy to propose to go with the officer's happy to propose to the officer's recommendation for you to be given. Thank you.
It's worth noting the conditions which were applied to this, which is to use it just for this matter. So that's conditioned, which of course is a legal requirement. And the concrete beams have got to be removed within 2 months, and to protect the amenities of the surrounding area. And the development committee should be carried out in accordance with the approved plans, which are actually up. So I think the conditions make it tight. Councillor Beckley?
Only to second the motion, Chair.
Have we any other propositions? Can we we've got a motion now which is proposed and seconded, which is accept the officer's recommendations with the conditions required. Do we have sufficient agreement to agree unanimously?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. That then is carried,
Yeah.
and the motion is carried. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Agenda item 4, moving across now, which is application 2403-143 for land to the north of the Hollies and to the northeast of Square Covert in Windsor Great Park, Windsor. I'm getting it tonight. That's the second one in my ward this evening, so it's a good one. But I have no interest at all in Windsor Great Park. Can I ask if Joe's now ready to present this application? Can we first know Louise is doing it? And I must say, the reason this is an extraordinary meeting is it's time limited, as you'll probably find out when Louise talks about it. We had cancelled the original meeting because there was no business, and then this came up as a time limited factor, which will come out when we actually have it presented. Louise, on you go.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me properly? Yes, good. The proposal is for the creation of a temporary film set with associated works to create a tech base and use of land for parking, storage, unit base for a temporary period of 6 months. Just to clarify, they're looking to start on the site at the end of May, hence the restrictions on time. So the recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions set out in section 13 of the report, and any such amendments is required to make the scheme acceptable. Again, I'll reiterate, it's a temporary permission for 6 months. There was requests to approach the tree officer, which we have done, following the receipt of amended plans. No additional comments from the tree officer on this. Stop.
Right, presentation H. We're back on track.
We're back on track, yes. So the structure of the presentation is the overview of the recommendation, which we just covered, the proposed development, some specific matters, and conclusion and recommendations. So this provides the overview of recommendation, which is the application site proposes a temporary permission for a film set in Windsor Great Park. It will run for a temporary period of 6 months only from the commencement of any development, and the assessment on the Windsor Great Park SAC are not considered to arise owing to the built form being undertaken outside the root protection areas. I'll clarify that when we move on to the drawing shortly. The proposed conditions require the applicant to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the local authority that the construction of the temporary film set will not impact upon the trees. They have already amended drawings to demonstrate this, but as a further measure, we are looking to impose conditions as well. The proposed conditions set out a number of parameters in relation to height of buildings and the structures. I'll again come into more detail shortly. The development is considered to generate likely economic benefits to the local economy through ancillary expenditure, utilisation of services and industries in the local area. Just to clarify, this is the evidence for this is very strong. Where these type of events have occurred elsewhere, there's a lot of local business generation, and it's good for our local businesses. So the support of the application would further reiterate the borough's role as forming part of the West London cluster, which supports the film industry in this area. Again, this is not an application for a new studio. This is for location shooting in the area. Next slide. Right, we're moving on to proposed development. As you can see, there are two main sites. The site to the north is where the shooting will actually take place, and the site to the south is all the resources required for the shooting in its own right. So The site to the north will comprise a 1.5-storey bungalow. However, this will be a temporary structure. Although they're shooting internally in the building itself it would be dismantleable within 6 months. So the structure would not be substantial. The site to the south is for welfare, storage, crew area, and will be a combination of marquees and the, I don't know how to describe them, big lorries. There's a proposal to put down a degree of surfacing to ensure that the lorries don't do significant damage to the ground. The actual filming period is 4 days, but the land is required for 6 months to facilitate all the setup, the construction, and then all the removal after the shooting period. So to the north of the site is of the proposed film set is the 1.5-storey bungalow with driveway. Again, this isn't to be serious engineering works, this is to be surface works. And the amended plans were received through the application period to move the building outside of the root protection areas. The root protection areas, as you can see, are shaded onto the plan there and there, and so around the site. Originally, the plan for this building was within the root protection areas to the what would appear to be the southwest of the site. So it was moved north. To the north of that, you can see some squared area. That is the tech base, which comprises the ancillary equipment and crew required for the filming. So it's where they keep their equipment, the cameras and so on, in between the filming. And again, it's a temporary surfacing, and they keep the equipment on it that they're actually using for the shooting. So the tech base and the building fall outside of the root protection areas. So more detail on the south of the site. This is the ancillary area, which will provide site equipment, welfare tents, crew trucks, and so on. It's designed to be flexible in nature, given the temporary structures erected in this particular site, and will vary throughout the duration of the filming. So the area you see in grey is likely to be the area with protection to the ground. The three squares to the left of the site is where the big marquees will be. So they're just based onto the ground with flooring inside. The proposed conditions attached to the application will require all land to be remediated to its original state. So that includes any grass areas or anything else. The proposed conditions also require details of the construction methods to limit the impact on the environment and the ground conditions. So again, pretty straightforward thing to do. So on to specific matters. So concerns were raised throughout the original consultation period in respect of the film set's proximity to trees. And trees comprise part of the integrity to the nearby special area of conservation. So it was particularly important that the root protection areas were maintained. So Natural England are the consultee overseeing the nationally important sites, including the SAC, and Natural England have confirmed that the structures fall outside of the root protection areas, and having reviewed the suite of conditions where there is no impact upon the trees, which will contribute to the SAC. So Natural England have raised no further objections on the relocation of the 1.5-storey building. So moving on to highways. So there has been some concerns raised about this, but although the development could at its maximum generate approximately 300 persons on site, that is during the period of shooting, by the way, just to confirm. This would solely be at the peak. So that would probably be over a short period. The peak in these vehicle movements would be comparable to any other event taking place in the locality of Windsor. So if there were, I don't know, a day festival or a fair or a market going on that land or nearby, it would generate similar numbers. Just to clarify, the planning system is unable to control the routes of vehicles outside of the red line of the application sites. Just to clarify here as well, although the road itself is marked in red on the site plan, actually it's not something that can be controlled under the planning application because it's highways land. Not quite sure why they included it, the red line. I think it's to show the connectivity of the two sites, but they didn't need to put a red line around it. So just to confirm, that's highways land, not their land. Therefore, the high threshold of severe cumulative highway impact as set out in paragraph 116 of the NPPF is just not met. This is quite a useful map. It shows the West London cluster. So the ones in purple are the actual sites, the studios. And I think I might be right in saying that the slightly lighter one is the location site. So you can see its proximity. This particular one is linked with Bray Studios, which has recently been taken over by Amazon.
Yeah.
So West London cluster promotes and supports the film industry within this area, owing its locality to Heathrow Airport. And the reason why filming takes place in this cluster is because a series of subsidy industries within the location are well provided for. And it gives some details there. It is quite normal for site location filming to take part near to the studios. It doesn't always happen, but where they can find suitable locations near the studios, there's a cost benefit related to that. Where they do set up site location filming, then there's also, as recognised earlier, an economic benefit to the locality. So given the plethora of work available and this economic ecosystem being created, this has become a hub, otherwise known as the West London Cluster. So really, it's something that we would wish to promote in terms of our local economy. Conclusions and recommendations. So again, this is in effect a cost-benefit table with harms set out on the right-hand side and the benefits set out on the left-hand side. The harms identified in planning terms were the potential effect on the root protection area of the trees, but this has been overcome by amended plans, so that no longer is an issue. Highways impact had been raised, but again, it doesn't meet the high benchmark under 116 of the NPPF. So in terms of refusing on that basis, it's not something we could do. However, the benefits are quite significant. So we've got the economic benefits, we've got the 10% biodiversity net gain, which is a requirement in any event. There's a promotion of the borough's role in the West London cluster, the utilisation of the nearby film studios in Bray. That's where this particular application is linked to, and enhanced interest in the Windsor Great Park as a result of visitor attraction to the area and likely local employment in service industries, and that's hotels, cafes, restaurants, and so on. With all this in mind and looking at the costs, the harms and the benefits, officers have recommended that this temporary planning permission be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. We now have one speaker on behalf of the applicants, Nicholas Day from the Crown Estate. Nicholas, if you'd like to.
Stop watching time.
And same rules apply. 3 minutes, 1 minute warning from Mikey. Press the button to bring the mic live, and when you start speaking, we start counting the time. When you're ready.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Nick Day, and I'm one of the senior management team working for the Crown Estate at Windsor, where my responsibility, amongst others, includes managing all filming activity on the estate. Could I start by thanking you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for arranging this extraordinary meeting to enable the applications submitted by Planet Consulting on behalf of Apple Pie Productions to be heard. I'm here to support the application on behalf of the Crown Estate. Over the years, the Crown Estate at Windsor has developed a reputation as being a film-friendly location. I should stress that film-friendly is a term widely used in the industry. At Windsor, we adopt not only a friendly, but also a very firm stance on all aspects of filming, to ensure that whenever we permit a production to arrive on site, whatever its size or scale, every possible step and measure is put in place to ensure that no harm can come to the precious landscapes that we manage and in which we take such pride. Disney and Apple Pie Productions have worked tirelessly with us over a period of many months to meet all of our demands and requirements. I would like to reassure the committee that if there had been any concerns or worries within the Crown Estate team of qualified arboricultural and biodiversity experts, we simply would not have entertained hosting the production. The production has taken on board the concerns raised by both the tree and ecology officers from RBWM and have continued to make changes, as you have seen, to the proposal to ensure that all of the officers' concerns have been fully met. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the officers and all in the planning department for the thoroughness and hard work they put in onto this application. The fact that planning permission is required for this, albeit temporary project, shows it is a large production. Indeed, I am reliably informed it is one of the largest, if not the largest, single production filming in the UK this year. I think we should be quite proud to be hosting it to the borough. It brings with it welcome income to the Crown Estate of Windsor, income which we'll be able to reinvest into the Great Park as we continue to manage both an important ecological site at the same time as welcoming huge numbers of visitors, both local and from further afield. It will bring with it substantial benefits to business and individuals across the borough. British Film Institute research shows that film and high-end TV production spend in the UK was £5.6 billion in 2024, an increase of 31% over the previous year. Incremental spend attached to this figure is estimated to be in the region of an additional £9 billion nationally. After a few difficult years with COVID and then the Hollywood writers and actors strike, the British film industry has resurgent. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy has recently said, despite huge challenges faced by the sector in recent years, film and TV continues to generate a huge amount of revenue and jobs right across the country. By welcoming productions such as this, we can hopefully continue to play a small role in helping to support this important creative industry. May I conclude by once again thanking you and reiterate our commitment to protect and preserve the landscape that we manage and which plays such an important role, both ecological and recreational, within the borough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. We now enter the phase where panel members can ask questions of Louise about the application, about any aspects of it they want to clarify. It's worth saying, isn't it, that if they weren't building a set, it'd be a different thing altogether, wouldn't it? It's the building of the set makes this a planning matter, doesn't it?
It's scale and degree, to be honest. If it were something much smaller and much more temporary, then possibly it would require it to come under these sort of TENS rules. But this is a major production and a major set of filming, so therefore it needs all the supporting functions that go with that. So that is why it's required up to 6 months. Although the filming itself isn't very long, the setting up of all the equipment that's required for it, together with the structures, takes time.
And so over the floor. Anybody wish to put forward? Councillor Levy.
Thank you, Chair. I have actually just 2 questions. One is, why did it have to come to the borough, since it's on the estate land? What do you call it? It's private land, and yet it's come to us, Crown Estate land. That's one question. I didn't think it normally would come because it doesn't affect us in any way, but it's nice that it's come to us. And also the other thing I had was, I feel it's quite positive for us. I mean, it's so positive, it's unbelievable. It's giving us all the revenue for the borough, for the shops and everything, especially when everything's so down at the moment. And as you said about, I've just heard Mr. Day say that about what's been happening in that industry, in the film industry, with the strikes, the fires, with COVID. I think it's so good that he's come here and he's going to help us, and I would support it fully. Happy to go for the recommendation of the officers. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, question in there. So it's questions part this month. So,
Yeah.
Louise.
Well, firstly, it does require planning permission because it's a use and development, albeit that it's temporary. So in the first instance, it fills the requirements of the Act as requiring planning permission. Secondly, the reason it's come to committee is because of the area, particularly the area to the south. It falls under a major planning application. And as you know, all major sites have to come to planning committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? Councillor Julian, Jesse.
Thank you, Chair. Well, for so many reasons, this is a very strong application, I think. But the big question, it appears to be over trees and in particular ancient woodlands, and also potentially habitats as well. I noticed that was raised. Perhaps I'm sort of I see like 1027 we dealt with conditions about distance to the the root protection areas, but can the officers just what changes have been made that give us enough comfort over the ancient woodlands are not going to be damaged and that habitats are going to be protected?
Just to clarify, this was a matter that was raised with Natural England, and I think the concerns were originally that the area to the south is not near any protected trees, so it's some distance. It's not within a root protection zone of any tree. It's in a sense in an area of just flat grassland. However, the site to the north, where the proposed 1.5-storey building would be constructed, was originally within the root protection zones of ancient trees. So following that, we did come back to the applicant, explain the situation, and they relocated the building so that it was outside of the root protection zones. Natural England came back and said they had no further objections. So with that, we're satisfied.
Okay, thank you. So I think I'm satisfied with that. That was actually my biggest worry in terms of protection of trees. However good this was, we have to be sort of custodians, but that's good. So they've moved it by the sound of it. Yeah. In terms of habitats, I notice on the main summary the under statutory consultees, it does say that we're still waiting for the habitats risk assessment. I presume that that's been, well, this question, has that been received, and are Natural England happy with that regards that habitats are not going to be disturbed materially?
So habitats risk assessment has been carried out and is satisfactory.
Okay, I'm happy.
Any more? Councillor Marbury.
Thank you, Chair. Just echoing comments, it's clearly a very positive thing for the area, and I know that the sort of the careful consideration that's gone into it. My one concern would be, in that sense, the reality of when the construction team come on site. How do we know that they will actually build the structure in the place, which has been approved? Because it does seem to be very close to the root protection areas, and it would be easy to kind of go, even just like almost an innocent mistake for the construction to be in the wrong place. Is there any assurance we can get in terms of checking what happens as it happens?
Louise?
Well, the planning system, when we approve an application, we are approving it in the location that they have shown on the drawings. So if it were to be moved, then that wouldn't be in compliance with the permission that they have. In terms of checking it, we normally enforce on reporting. So if it's reported to us that it's in the wrong location, I'm sure Crown Land will keep a close eye on this. Then we will, of course, respond accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay with that? Well, there are conditions as well, which worth noting.
Yeah,
about protecting these trees, probably more than you would normally get.
Yeah.
I think condition 5, doesn't it? Yeah. Any more? Councillor Gerson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just I just wanted, I was just looking up one of the conditions. I know in 10.37 it was talking about surface water drainage, and there was talk about soak away, but then it was confirmed afterwards that you know, you're going to use collect the water in the bowsers and it'd be taken away. Was that in the condition? I can see that.
Yeah, I'll have a check.
No, I couldn't see. I thought it'd be in the monitoring plan or somewhere in there. But basically, in the report, it says that no time grey water will be discharged into the ground.
Yeah, it's 10:05.
I mean, I think it would probably be covered by condition 11, but if it helps, we can add a condition to be more explicit about this. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, please, if you could, just so I've got that sort of reassurance there.
What it is then.
Yeah. Because it does state it in the report, and it's obviously it's important.
So no grey water to be discharged on the land.
Underground, yeah. Thank you. But other than that, my comments, you know, quite fairly positive. I think, you know, there's obviously going to be economic benefit. I like this West London cluster supporting that. Maidenhead's benefited greatly from Brave Film Studios, and obviously it's having an effect in Windsor as well now. So yeah, definitely, I'm very, very supportive of that. I did see in obviously there's a national and international conversation around filming and stuff at the moment, where sort of Americans are sort of, you know, Donald Trump sort of like, you know, no taxes. And I see in Parliament earlier today, there were one of the MPs was saying, you know, they're going to sort of protect Bond and Bridget Jones and Paddington, and sort of, you know, so that's really good. But yeah, I'm very much in favour of this.
Okay, we're at the questions bit still. We're not
Yeah.
voting yet.
Whilst I've got the floor,
Do you have anybody else to ask questions? Anybody at all? If everybody's asked the questions they've asked, then we shall pause the officers for a moment and open the debate and see if anybody has anything to propose. Councillor Devon Davis.
Yeah, this seems like a marvellous application in more ways than one. We should be promoting business, including the West London cluster, and be assured by Crown Estate's promise that no harm will be done to the land, not that was ever in doubt. So I see no reason why shouldn't be approving this. So I would motion we approve this with the planning officer's conditions and the one proposed by Councillor Singh.
So the recommendation, to make it clear, is to grant plan permission subject to the conditions set out in section 13.
Plus the grey water condition.
Plus the grey water condition. And any such amendments as required to make the scheme acceptable is another part of the application, so that the final plan could be looked at, I suppose, once actually there. You were next.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with Councillor Devon Davis. I think this is a very strong application, and it's good that there's been some interaction, some adjustment, and it definitely seems to tick all the necessary boxes. So happy to second.
Anybody you wanted to speak, Councillor Buckley?
No, I was just going to come in with a second and just say, you know, it makes a real change for an applicant who's worked so closely with officers so thoroughly on an application. And I was just going to say, you know, thank you to the officers and for the applicant for it being a nice change for us to see people working together to sort out all the mitigation that we need. So I was going to second it, but Mark's really got there. Thank you.
You jumped in. And quicker hand. So are there any other motions at all to be put forward? Councillor Lexman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On 10.34, sorry, not 10.34, it's 10.37, where they mention about the grey water, flood risk and drainage. So I'm not too sure whether we need again to put something down there, because it's very clear that what they're going to do. And as you said, the Crown Estate is quite strict about things like that. I'm not too sure whether you really need to put another condition on that.
No, that's not a condition.
It's not in the
That's a report,
I know, but it's on the report saying what they're going to do.
but it's not conditioned.
But you want a condition?
Yeah.
Can we use
All
some
right, okay.
I think having that extra condition, if you like, or mention, because there is this thing, any other amendments to make it acceptable. So that opens a lot of adjustment, I believe, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does, but this gives clarity over the grey water situation, because although it's in the report, I do understand that to have it, if it's important, which I can see it is, then to secure it by condition is, I would say, very reasonable.
Okay, if we have nothing else to add, we have a proposition from Councillor Deborah Davis to approve according to the officer's recommendations, and a second there with Councillor Mark Wilson. Sorry, Councillor Julian
Yeah, just to clarify, I presume this is with the additional condition that said that by Councillor.
Yes, we've
okay,
set up. We've got that logged, so that's the way it goes. Do we need a named vote with this, or can we agree unanimously? That's what it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Everybody agree?
Agreed.
Unusually, we have a unanimous decision to approve. Thank you very much. We, because it's an extraordinary meeting, we don't have any other approvals to note. So therefore, thank you everybody for coming out to play and to get this approval of the planning application through.